Okay, I'm starting the third story by Tobor. And by the way, the picture on the back here is a picture of the redwood trees. This story is called Social Security. Green Crystals, Leon Yode. Part 1. Green Crystals. The trained very old treat the children. The trained old treat the very young children. The very old give them too much candy. The trained middle-aged and adults treat the teenagers and young adults. No one past adult is treated. They are then trained. A hot afternoon. I drove up 55 at 90, the speed limit for 5 years now. I could see, just as I made the right curve at 65 to get on High 5, that a refrigerated semi had gone over the edge and dropped strawberries, cabbage, tomatoes, asparagus, and watermelon on 55. The truck hung there impaled, dependent on the edge. It would have to drop. They'd never get it back up. What could be holding it but a pneumatic servo that was leaking away its life? I saw the squad car, turn sideways, and the people standing there watching the fun. 40 feet from me I could feel the fear in Darwin. He'd never believed in those fancy laser brakes I black marketed in from Bolivia, or my ability to use them fast enough. I could see the pile of cars off the edge, but I stopped on a dime. Unfortunately, Darwin had forgotten to buckle up, even though I had paid extra to get the belts with the brakes. I shoved him back in the seat, flicked the belt across his ample form, and without looking at the blood that could get him a fast trip to Never Never if the medics got him, I accelerated over the berm onto the opposite direction ramp. I knew I was playing with fire. The ion helis could blast me, but I floored it and hit 150 to clear the next half mile. I cut back and fumbled in my bra for the also black market Morphocoag and shoved it in the bloody face next to me. I didn't want to look at Darwin. Not yet, anyway. Wait till you see this one, Tobor. This story will put pounds on you in those things you suck on every time you think about you-know-what. Sluggo went for the jugular. The narrator is Sluggo. His mouth seemed to work, so I left him to swallow it. I wiped my hand quickly on his black jumpsuit, whipped off east about 4 miles up, and headed for the hills. Christ, we knew they'd kill us sooner or later with the old Social Security going belly up. We were pretty good at surviving, though, with our black jumpsuits and our jelly bean boots, our black cars with black market speed amplifiers, brakes and belts, drugs, weapons, whatever, and our high-tech skills that we doled out carefully so most of us could live. I pulled off at the roadhouse where the black cars and the black bikes and the dog sniffing the blood already gave me a chill. I shot 2 of them to give the others something to eat, grabbed Darwin and kicked my way to the door. It took an instant for me to get used to the dark inside, even though I flipped up my mirrored visor. It was darker than it should have been. I saw a kid in a white gown, probably an oversized t-shirt, sucking his thumb and holding a teddy bear with a green gloved hand. Too late, they had us. They took Darwin off my shoulder and laid him on the red and white checked plastic tablecloth. Respectable-looking older people, sets of legal-sized papers stapled together. I knew what they said. 1. The trained very old. I saw the green crystal stuff being sprinkled on Darwin's bloody face. For the first time, I looked at him and wondered how he could have trusted me against Social Security. We had to clash sooner or later. His face was pulp. It paralyzed me just long enough for them to toss a teaspoon of green crystals into my sweaty cleavage. The little boy was telling me that the green stuff in his glove was making him crazy. He said they did it on purpose. He was tingling all over, he said. I knew they had me, but they wouldn't toss Darwin to the medics. They'd fix his face and train him. He was old enough. Me they'd treat. Only 5 things to be, I thought, tingling, starting in my shoulders. A medic, a social security cop, a black market baby, a psychologist, or a mental patient. Who is holding them all up? Saliva ran down one corner of my face. I'm not going to stumble out there and get eaten by the dogs. I managed to croak out one question. Why did the semi, why did, and I heard about what I expected. Snails. We raise them and drop them directly in front of the semis. We do not believe they should be allowed on the freeway. Aggravating situational religion. No different than anyone else in this screwed up world. They led me into one of the big walk-in ambulances. Some of my babies were there ahead of me, picking their noses and playing with themselves. Damn the indignity! They planned it well. They knew who would get away and where we would go. Plenty of dogs, plenty of green stuff, and a little child shall lead them. The kid let you know instantly what your life would be like now. The poor kid, how long did he have to stay that way? My nose itched. I started to pick it. What the hell? Part 2. I followed them down the hall. We were just visiting, and it was time to leave. The building was a shell, a wreck. A young woman in front of me was wearing a skirt as short as real shorts, and old-fashioned leg warmers, and a shiny blouse. Her hair was short blonde, frosted curls, and when she turned I saw that she was hard and scared, and her face was broken out. I looked around to see 2 ample older women walk purposefully through the doors without looking at us. Where do they get the food to stay fat, I thought. The thought tried to jerk me back to recall where my friends got food. It left me nothing but unease. I hate that unease, a thought you can't remember, a logical step that won't budge. And you are left with what you can remember, a plastic tit to suck on with a little handle to hang it on your finger when your mouth is tired. Something is missing. Something is suspicious. I walked down the hall and ducked between some grating to see if it was a way out, and slipped down into a room below floor level. God, I could have killed myself, I thought. Here we go, off on a sightseeing trip, and I fall into a black hole. We? Who was we? I blocked another question I could not answer, and looked around. My knee was scraped. It was starting to bleed. The smell of blood. I sniffed in short bursts for the enemy, but again blocked a question that made me uneasy. Who am I? I blocked it. I must have asked something I'm not supposed to be able to think about. I blocked that thought as well. There was a smell, but there were also metal rungs on the wall. I climbed up to the closer set grating and would have made my way across the wall to the wider grating that would be easy to slip through. But just then a male face with a uniform and a hat confronted me, and I backed down the down rungs. He tapped the grate with his club. I don't want to hassle a man with a club. Not without mine. My club? The thought flew away uneasily. Why didn't I just tell him I fell in here and ask him to help me out? Block. I looked around again. There was a man in the cell. He was a prisoner. He pointed to steps on the wall below the wide grating, and I started to climb up again. I slipped on the second or third step, but would have tried again. But he had said something. No, wait. He had dark curly hair and wore no shirt, although the hair on his upper body and arms covered him like a light, thin shirt. Light blue eyes and a beard that could use trimming. Black wash pants. He looked at the length of me along with the eyes and a smile that was a little crazy. Who isn't, Block? He disappeared and pushed open a hole in the wall that led outside. Go on, get away, he whispered loudly. Who are you? Leon. Go on. Leon? Leon Yode, now go. As I walked quickly down cement stairs, past a large elderly woman who did not seem to notice me, and who I did not look at, I realized I was wearing something green and institutional, rubber shower shoes. My hair seemed to bounce loosely on my back, light brown, needed washing. Funny, it didn't used to be straight or light brown. What? Better not ask. I looked back to see a magnificent, solid building, a monument to something beautiful and something ugly. It might be impossible to kill, but such things must have been killed before. Before what? Block. Or it could be dying even though it couldn't be killed. I walked through a stream with soft pebbles and looked up to see massive rocks, granite, placed there artificially. But so big, how could anyone have put them there? Maybe they brought the building to the rocks. I heard a car on a road and made sure I was out of sight of it. Leon Yode, Leon Yode. I repeated it over and over so I could go back and find him. I wanted so hard to remember something. I kept repeating it so it wouldn't fly away. No questions, just a name. Leon Yode, Leon Yode, Leon Yode. If I forget it once, I'll never know if it floats back to me, what it means, what he looked like, his words, his freedom, and his choice to stay there, and Leon Yode. He will find me. There are more than me have come this way. No questions. Just keep walking. There is someone else. Keep walking. I'll be found. I'll find him. I'll remember things. I'll remember it all when it wears off. Don't ask what. Leon Yode. And here is another story I think we have time for. Yes. This is called Feeding Frenzy. Do not lust after results. Fear is failure. It is quiet. Trees very tall cast good shade. Different greens, browns, red, inherent. Even in lawn, old house added on, adapted, modernized again and again for technology, less, more, money, changing needs. I see a pickup truck, two-wheel and green, an old utility trailer, parked. Hangover of a trailer RV hangs over pickup when traveling. I see my favorite flower of my mother's, pink plastic flamingos, pansies in a tiny toy carriage, tethered to a 2-foot 8-inch post, apartments over back fence, chain link and slats. Sounds, traffic at a distance, 2 directions, also wind, barking dog closer, honking, someone arrived at front of house. Feel mild wind, moderate temperature, chair, metal against back and backside. Writing is very boring right now, boring. The idea is, what I write now is as if my mother had asked me to write at least 10 minutes a day. To write what I sense. I look up and write to see over and write to hear, down and write to feel what I imagine in the future. What compels me? The story I just heard of 4 people, a couple in their late 30s, and their 2 daughters, Tina and Pratina, suffering from heat in a car in South Dakota in the middle of road construction. The car is a classic 1933 Ford, completely restored. They are on their way to a car meet where they may or may not sell it. They are enjoying it, but also putting up with the inconvenience of an authentic, classic, no air conditioning, not very roomy car. And the girls, who were bored by the family gathering, softened their boredom and joined in to tell about the terrifying experience that could only be treated as an experience, something they had no choice but to add unwillingly to their store of perceptions. The workers are all Indian. A woman flag person at the center makes them wait a long time. 20 minutes may be a long time in a hot car. They don't make it easy in South Dakota. In South Dakota, they don't have detours. You just drive right through on the road, whatever condition it is in. Gravel, hot air, hot tar, dirt, and you wait whenever you come to a location where they are treating the road. You just go on through and stop as needed. The dust and the heat hang in the air, and 20 minutes can be an eternity. In one place they were stopped for a semi with enormous dirt clods teetering, rolling back and forth. The driver and helper were bouncing in the seat of the truck to headphone music. The giant dirt clods seemed ready to teeter and roll right off the truck onto their car. The sisters in the back seat were also riding along, each with separate headphones echoing the pair in the truck, probably listening to the same station. The side wings only are open for air because the girls don't want their hair blown by the hot, red, dust-laden wind. When one of them takes her headphones off for relief from the noise, heat, and sweaty ears, she is bothered by the others singing. Isolated by her own choice, she is forced back to her headphones and enough noise to shut out her sister's noise. Forced isolation, dust, strange people, noise, heat, signs, time factor, and the giant dirt clods which seem to be ready to attack make them feel spacey. In the motel room, exhaustion, aspirin and ice packs at midnight, showers and sleep almost, and he thought about what he had seen out the car window. He had looked quickly around to be sure the others didn't see it. He didn't want to look back. He closed his eyes. A wave of sadness, combined with nausea, swept up his body from his legs to his eyes. He forced them open again, watering so that he would be able to know when to drive on past the large, dead mammalian rodent, whose offspring were still very much alive and attached. And you didn't even think at the time to write it down. Their own restrictiveness made it worse than it had to be. He said it was the worst experience of the year. I think of much longer than that. They don't make it easy in South Dakota. Not easy at all. Are we only alive when we feel terror? Is it better than closeness? Does it in some cases substitute for, or bring closeness? Do I only act when I stop being nice? And finally they slept, but each of them would remember that construction site, and something that sleep finally helped them file away but not erase. The stuff of compelling stories is all around you, and the quiet, methodical people are the ones with the stories. Sun on front lawn, green, red points, always use points of vibrating color, shows blood orange through leaves and through filter of sunglasses. And wasn't that story filtered through perceptions and restrictions, theirs and mine? Ask them to tell you their lives. Thank you. I will put my email in the description. And again, I'm using a MacBook Air with headphones and the photo booth program. And it seems to be working fairly well. Thank you so much.